I'm Stephen John Drew from the official GonnaGeek.com podcast, a proud member of the Gonna Geek Network, just like the one you're listening to now. The opinions expressed are those of each individual. Check out other geeky podcasts at GonnaGeekNetwork.com and get ready because geekiness begins in 3, 2, 1.
You are listening to the Starling Tribune, a podcast dedicated to the Arrow TV show.
This guy gets more airtime than the Kardashians, right?
This podcast is not produced or maintained by the CW, Warner Brothers Television, CTV, or DC Comics. All characters, situations, and stories are the properties of Time Warner. I am the Oracle, and this is your Tribune.
Welcome back to the Starling Tribune. I am Stargate Pioneer, my friends. Call me SP. And your reporters for this 18th episode of Season 4 of the Starling Tribune are Michelle.
One last time.
And Chris.
A magician never reveals his secrets.
And Neil.
I haven't started torturing you yet.
This podcast is recorded on Thursday, April 7th, 2016, live on the Blab streaming service. We are just a few guys and now ladies. We're just a few guys and a lady, okay, that discuss the TV show Arrow. Just a little reminder that I am not a comic book expert. I'm more of a sci-fi fan, and I'm catching up to the comic lore thanks to great folks like Chris.
Yeah, I'm reading Doctor Strange right now.
And Neil.
Rebirth. That's what I always say now, isn't it? Rebirth.
Rebirth. Yeah. I did pick up my Green Arrow at the comic book store yesterday, so I'm looking forward to that Rebirth as well. So during this podcast, we'll be talking about what happened in episode 18 of the CW television show Arrow, as well as news, articles, and announcements that have dropped in the past and that could impact future episodes. Yeah, this is it. We're going to be talking about who they killed off. So if you don't want to be spoiled, please turn us off right now, watch the episode, and then come back. Because it's going to be spoiler filled. I'm warning you. Spoilers. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Spoilers. Okay. I think that's enough warning. So all of our past shows can be found at the archives at GonnaGeek.com. And okay, this is your last warning. This is it. We're going to start talking about it. Spoilers. Okay, Neil, let's go.
All right. Current episode 1159. They have been teasing this for weeks. The final resolution of Who is in the Grave. Season 4, episode 18. Air date of Wednesday, April 6th, 2016. Director, Rob Hardy. 3 episodes of Flash, 3 episodes of Arrow, 1 episode of Blind Spot, 1 episode of Empire, 2 of Originals, 7 of Criminal Minds, 3 of Bones, 1 of Castle, 5 of Vampire Diaries, and I could keep going. Writers are 2 names that are very familiar if you've been following the show. Mark Guggenheim himself and Keto Shimizu.
Pulled out the 2 big guns for this.
Very much so.
So we have this great episode, 1159. And do we actually use the number? I have to get this right. Do we use the numbers like 11:59, or do we have to spell out 1159? I need to know. I need to, because I write the show notes. I need to.
What does the AP guidelines say? We need to go and check.
Well, I keep seeing the episode as the words.
Yeah.
No matter where I look. So.
All right.
Well, you know, IMDb is the authoritative source for everything, right? I guess.
It's on the internet. It must be true.
As well.
Okay. So after I watched the episode, I got to tell you, the 1159 came a little bit early. There should have been a longer, prolonged saving. I think time of death was premature. I think it should be more of the next day rather than 11:59. That's just me. So I think it should be like 12 or something like that. I mean, there needs to be time to try to save this girl.
But the symbolism of 1 minute before midnight, if you think of like the doomsday clocks and everything, it teases that something else is about to happen as the clock strikes 12.
You have to remember,
they're trying to make it sound ominous.
They're always beating the clock on things with like 1 second left, and that kind of cues back into that of, oh, they didn't quite make it this time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and also, it's that whole dark moment, and then when you tick over to the next day, you kind of looking forward to the next day, and maybe they'll start to improve from now. Things will look better.
And for the second day in a row, I am sorely remiss. I'm sorry. I didn't properly introduce our guest. Michelle is new to the Starling Tribune. This is her first appearance here. She is not new to the Gonna Geek Network, although she has been away for a while. She has made appearances on such great podcasts like All Things Good and Nerdy and Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., and she is a lifelong comic and sci-fi expert, and I fist bump her right now. Fist bump. Woo. Okay. Right to the, don't touch your camera. Don't mess the camera. Okay. So she has graciously come on to join us for this momentous episode at Neil was not supposed to be here for. So just put that out.
But do you really blame Neil for wanting to be here for this one?
No, not at all. This is what it's all about. So Neil, What do you think?
Well, general thoughts. Wow. I mean, this was teased for a while. I mean, since episode 1 of this season, we have been talking about who's in the grave. I think all of us have flip-flopped back and forth, or at least I know I have. We've come up with wild conspiracies. We've come up with the obvious ones, and we've all guessed. And it all came down to last night. Now, there were spoilers out there on the interwebs. There were paparazzi shots of the headstone, and I'm really impressed that most of the media, like the geek media sites out there, didn't run with them, or if they did, they didn't make a big deal. They kind of showed up and then they went away. So a lot of fans out there, I know, stayed spoiler free. I chose to spoil myself, thinking, well, it could have been a hoax anyways, because we all know, just like Stephen Moffat lies, Mark Guggenheim could lie. That's always a possibility. So I still didn't know how we were going to end this episode. And sure enough, Mark Guggenheim didn't lie. The spoilers were spoilery. Go figure.
That's true. They did try to mask it as well. We haven't gotten to the funeral scene yet, but they did shoot 2 funeral scenes. Apparently there's one in the past, one in the present. So they got away with not necessarily the person that's in the grave is the person that was killed in the episode. So they did have that going for them. And they did shoot 2 grave scenes. Now, whether they used both or not, I have no idea. But
I wonder who they used for the alternate scene then.
Well, allegedly, it's in the flashbacks. So I don't know. It could be somebody that we would have known in the past or whatever. I honestly, I don't know. Maybe it was Oliver and Robert's fake funeral. I don't know.
That's what I was thinking as soon as you said that I bet they're going to overlay it with Ollie's funeral and take a look, compare and contrast, if you will.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some of that. So, Chris, your thoughts
on the reveal? I was right. I didn't guess that one all season long, and I was not expecting it until about halfway through this episode, and was like, I know where they're going now based off the way they've been building things up. I was like, okay, it's kind of telegraphed. But to be fair, I didn't think that it was going to stick. I thought, okay, when they had the person in the recovery room and they called Captain Lance, like, hey, you need to be here. I was like, oh, this is where they're going to get it. Lance is going to come in. He's either going to have a heart attack because something surprises him, or he's going to get taken out by someone of Damien Dark's goons or something. I was expecting the last second twist just to really screw with us, because I've watched a lot of shows that do that, like season 1 Battlestar Galactica, where you get that twist and then things suck and you hurt inside because Bill Adama is your favorite character.
That's right. So I think the episode was well done. I think most of the episodes with Arrow are well done as an individual. Now, their plot in general, I've got a little bit of suspect to it now, and we'll get to that a little bit later, but we'll just stay on the episode right now. It was well done. I think the fight that was in the Arrow cave, I'm just going to go with that because that's what they say. Bunker, whatever. It's Arrow cave. So I think the fight there between Thea and Laurel and the ninjas, I thought it could have been one or the other right there off the bat. I thought Thea could have gone. I thought Laurel could have gone. So they did a great job of really teasing just about everybody, but specifically those two throughout the episodes, you really just didn't know. So
I didn't think it would be Thea then, because it's Merlin's ninjas, and he probably told them, "Don't kill my daughter."
Yeah. Well, hey, here's a question, Michelle. Throughout the season, were you taking a personal bets, or were you chatting about with your friends on who you thought was going to bite it?
Yeah, all season it's just been like, well, maybe. I was just like, I didn't know if DC would let them basically take comic book canon, put it on an altar, bring in an axe, and just slice it in half. I didn't know if the powers that be would let them do that. And because I didn't know, it was like, well, it can't be this person. It can't be this person because comic book lore and blah, blah, blah. And so, like, I'm just really happy that they were just able to go, ha ha, we can take canon and chop it in half.
So the show's never really strictly adhered to canon, and they tossed that completely out the window now.
Obviously.
Well, I think there's a way that we can get back to canon, but we'll save that till later.
Ooh, okay. There are multiple Earths.
Yeah.
See, I know what you're going there.
Okay. I think personally, I'm not a show writer. I think that Earth 2 Laura Lance goes by Dinah. And we know that she is in an upcoming episode of Flash. And she probably hasn't had a boyfriend that has cheated on her once with her sister, twice with somebody else, then had a kid. And, maybe it's a clean slate for another strong character without the emotional baggage.
So who had Neil on the betting list should be the first person to say the person that died, because we all danced around it. I had Neil on my list, but I had it at the 19-minute mark, not the 11-minute mark. So
yeah, there you go. So yes, Laurel Lance did die at the end, but we let's save that for later. Let's go for the fights in this episode, because the fight choreography was very well done throughout the episode from the get-go all the way through. We had Malcolm versus Thea. I discussed the Arrow Cave fight. We also had the escape in the prison, which you got to admit that was kind of impressive. And then you had the Diggle Bros, and I think it was well done as far as the fights go.
Well, question for you guys: when did Malcolm Merlin get a hand back? Because he's holding a sword in his hand that was cut off. I mean, is it he's got some great prosthetic that holds a sword real well, or?
I just figured Hive was like, okay, you're with us now. Here's a hand.
I mean, that's why I was confused, because then Andy describes him as he's a dude with one hand and good teeth. And I'm like, what?
But he never, you see that hand, I was watching that because it was
never
bugging
moved.
It never moved, and it had a big glove on it. So he's got the Magic Hive prosthetic, maybe the Mercury Labs. Did I tell you I went to Mercury Labs last week? But yes, the Mercury Labs, because it won't have a Star Labs hand. So he's got something.
If you want to talk sets back and forth, I can get you back and forth, because I was at the place where they filmed Iron Man 3, Under the Dome, Dawson's Creek, One Tree Hill. I could keep going. So yeah,
those went progressively downhill as you listed them, right?
I did walk by an active shoot, which I am not at liberty to say what it was.
Was it the Dawson?
No.
You saw Dawson's Creek live.
He's not at liberty.
You love the Vanderbeek.
Okay, back to Merlin. I'm going to facepalm my mic here. Yes, I'm saying it's a prosthetic.
I think the Genesis pit was used to resurrect his hand.
Oh, there's no Genesis pit.
It was the Genesis device. It resurrected his hand, just like Spock.
Exactly. We're all good here. And you see what he had some downtime because he was without a hand. He's kind of nursing it. So he went to the movie theater. He saw Deadpool. He saw the whole thing going on with Deadpool's hand. He's like, oh, I could grow a hand back. How do I do that? Oh, Genesis. Okay, let's do it. So it was all inspired by Deadpool.
It spiraled down a 2-kilometer long ventilation shaft. And no, joking.
So, yes, I did notice the whole fight thing in the hand, but okay. But, okay, fights just as good as normal. Nothing really special, but still pretty good, right, guys?
Prison fight scenes. Listen, if you get a shiv, you get a shiv. Everybody gets a shiv.
Everybody.
Murmur, the guy with
That-
his mouth sewn shut, I have nicknamed him Stabby McStabs a lot.
Hashtag Stabby McStabs a lot. Perfect. Oh.
Yeah, and it
That was
reminded
so
me of Daredevil. Sorry, Michelle.
Yeah. No, it was some coordinated effort, like with all those knives in the books. It's like, and how did they do that? That was quite a feat. I was impressed.
Right.
Yeah.
So also impressing is the flashbacks, because I was listening to you guys. I wasn't able to do the podcast. My internet was absolutely non-existent. I could not do it if I wanted to do it. So thank you very much for doing that last week, guys. But I was listening. You guys were saying that the flashbacks were getting a little bit better. They did get a little bit better this week, and they have been the last few weeks. And I think that we're going to go to Russia, and we're going to meet the family of a deceased Russian brother and sister.
Da, comrade.
Yeah. So I think that's where we're headed.
Yeah.
But Ollie was the ultimate badass with that double tap when the guy steps around the corner. I'm like, damn, that's efficient. And oh yeah, the Ollie that comes off the island is a killer. So yes, let's get back there.
I like that we started getting mentions of that in the present day though too. When he's talking about Andy, he goes, "When you're somewhere like that, it changes you. You don't come back the same." He's like, "I'm still like I was when I came off that island," which was something to nicely touch back onto. I mean, he improves himself, but he's still that same man. He's just limited himself some.
Yep. All right. We've danced around it. We talked a little bit about it, but we're going to get in depth here. The elephant in the room, it just has to be talked about. The decision to kill Laurel off, or excuse me, the decision to kill Lauren off. All right. I know three of us on this podcast have very different opinions about it. I'm going to start with Michelle, because I have no idea where you're coming from on this.
You mean like how I feel it's her?
Yeah,
Or
the decision for the showrunners, for the creative team to kill off Black Canary.
I think it's bold. I actually was starting to like her, and that's something that like The Walking Dead does. It's like, let's build up the character, let's get you to know him and then like him. Because even I've had my problems with her in like the previous seasons, and now it's like she's coming to her own. She's Black Canary. This is amazing. And just like when I felt like I got to know her, they just killed her. I'm going to miss her, but like I'm still trying to process that.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, Neil, I know you're on one side of the fence, so we're going to go to you next.
Okay, so, I think, Chris, you and I talked about this last episode. I think that her redemption arc was nearly done. She wasn't flipping out. She was a solid sounding board. The Canary's cry seemed to have magnified in capability, especially versus the bees in the cave. Her fighting, she wasn't getting owned as much in a lot of the fights. It was getting better. Her career, as we saw, was evolving in this one, but it was really in the maturity of how she dealt with Ollie in the last two or three episodes that really made you go, she's giving him good advice. She's not being overly emotional, and she's like the most rational one on the team. Hang on, what just happened here? I'm on Team Laurel.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really happy about that, because, I'm a longtime Green Arrow fan, and I didn't know if we could ever get back to where where canon would take us. And again, my favorite all-time Green Arrow arc is the Longbow Hunters. And it's Black Canary and Green Arrow giving up the superhero gig and moving to Seattle and getting back to basics. And I just thought that could actually happen. It was like, not to cross the streams, but looking at the Marvel universe and going, it'd be great if we got a Hawkeye story in Brooklyn with him meeting Kate. And then just like with the Avengers, where suddenly you've got a family in a farmhouse and they throw canon out the window. This happened today and they threw canon out the window. Now, I'll be the first one to say they don't have to stick to canon. We've seen how many different origin stories for this character alone. But I always like thinking that canon is out there somewhere, that canon has a possibility. And they got rid of it, and they got rid of a character that had finally come into her own. They'd taken on a hellish road. I'm not thrilled with the decision to do it, honestly. That being said, I'm not going to rage quit. Like, I still enjoy this show, and I still think there's lots of opportunities moving forward.
Okay.
The internet has been very mad the past day and a half on this one.
Well,
very
of course,
mad.
the detractors are going to be very vocal. But Chris, where do you fall on this whole thing?
Well, you all know I've never really
Love
been
the character. Yeah.
I've never been a huge fan of Laurel, but I have said before in the past 2 weeks that they were doing a good job of bringing the character back from that place and where she'd been. I get why that was the character they chose, because they were starting to wrap up a lot of that. It was like, what are they going to do with Laurel now? She's kind of been on the periphery, and then they pulled her back in as a sounding board and things like that. But this is not to sound disparaging, but part of the problem and part of why you might do it is she did not really have great chemistry with Stephen Amell. The two actors didn't mesh well together. They haven't really. That might be part of why that's who they chose. I don't know. From my standpoint, they made it very tragic, the fact it was her. I mean, she was about to get out. It was her last day, and then it became her last day. But I get it. And then when I think about it, I go, okay, if it wasn't her, who would I kill, and what would the impact be? By making it be her, it impacts everyone on the team, and it gives Paul Blackthorne a lot more scenes to chew. And I like Paul Blackthorne, and I like his character, and I'm very curious to see what path Quentin Lance goes down now, because this is the second daughter he's lost, and presumably she's not going to get resurrected. But remember, as much as Mark Guggenheim and co. are saying, oh, this is permanent, it's done, they said the same thing about Sarah, and a year later Sarah was back too.
Kind of, sort of. So I admit I did not have a chance to watch the episode last night. It was after Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., the podcast that I do on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I was just too tired. I went to bed. This morning, I saw about 20 minutes and had to go to work. And I went to work, and I just made the decision. Look, before I go to work, I'm just going to find out. And all I had to do was go on Facebook and saw an article on one of the gazillion comic book sites. And so-and-so talks about how the death was. And it wasn't even hidden in the title either. It was Katie Cassidy talks about her death. I'm like, really, guys? Way to not spoil people.
People were not very good about spoilers on this one. They were good for about 2 hours. They were good until the West Coast viewing. And then it seemed like after that, the floodgates opened. And anywhere you went on Twitter, I mean, there were hashtags, no Laurel, no Arrow, and things like that. And people were just saying stuff everywhere. I'm like, come on, guys. Not everyone's had a chance to see it. At least you give people a day before you go out there and just blowing up Twitter with your rage. Or in some cases, some people be like, oh, this is an awesome idea. It changes things. But keep it quiet. Let other people experience it for themselves. And that's a common problem I have with TV shows and Twitter, and why I avoid Twitter if I'm not watching something relatively close to live.
Especially on a show which is going to be in hiatus for 3 weeks. The next episode is April 27th.
Typical CW.
Exactly. So anyway, I saw it, and it took me a little bit to process. I'm like, well, how do I feel about this? And because I didn't see the episode, I was able to think of it in the larger story arc. And I did see the episode, by the way. I'm not podcasting without seeing the whole episode.
Who would do such a thing? I've never done that.
Yeah, I wonder. Somebody self-confessed that, so we know who it is. But anyway.
Twice.
So I was just thinking in terms of the total arc, and I was like, okay, we had talked about this over and over. It could have been this person. It could have been that person. We were thinking it would have been Detective Lance. It wasn't Laurel Lance. And I was like, well, how is this really true? Well, they haven't ever treated the character really good. And Neil, you pulled up a great Forbes article, which basically expressed a lot of the things I was saying on. They spent a lot of time on this character, bringing her back from season 2. Season 2 was terrible for this character. And they brought her back. And then she, as you all said, she was a very good character, very solid character. And now they're just going to waste it by killing her off. And the article that you brought up said, look, they never have really known how to write her. They've never given her a lot of screen time. They've never really done a lot of things with the character. And Neil just dropped it in chat. And if you're listening to this later, it's in the show notes, the link to the Forbes article. That's the way I'm feeling about it. It's like DC never gave this character a chance. They didn't know how to deal with the character, especially with the canon out there of Oliver and Laurel getting together. So, and with the alleged chemistry issue as well, they're like, okay, let's just kill her off. And the problem will be done. And They've said we're off. I did read another article with Wendy Miracle and Mark Guggenheim, and they're like, yes, we know we're off canon. It's a decision we made, and this death is permanent. Now, we might be seeing Katie Cassidy again, probably in the next episode in a flashback, actually. But we're going to see her in Vixen. We're going to see her in a Flash episode dealing with Earth 2. So we know that Katie Cassidy is not gone from the universe, but she is permanently gone. Laurel Lance is permanently gone from the Flaro universe. And so this got me thinking of the entirety of the DC situation, of the fact that Supergirl and the Flaroverse are not connected. And that got me a little pissed off. I can't say why, but they're not connected. And then they find a way to connect them. But that's it. They're just totally not connected. So that chafed me. And then you go back to, I was on vacation with my son. We go to see Batman versus Superman, and we haven't talked about it in the podcast yet, but I have some serious issues with that movie. Serious issues. So you take the TV universes, the way they've been disconnected, the way the Arrow TV show has gone Olicity crazy, and they never really dealt with Laurel that well. And then Batman versus Superman, I'm mad at DC right now, and I'm not going to go see Suicide Squad in theater. But that's me. You take a look at everybody out there, they've been very divisive. There's been people that love these things, and there are people that are like, what the heck are they doing? So if they've gone for controversy in 2016, they got it. But I don't necessarily know if that's going to translate into fans down the road or even money. So that's what it's all about for them, is the money.
So you touched on one point there. And part of the problem with the show that I know I've said offline with folks is the fact that that Stephen Amell and Emily Bett Rickards, they mesh off each other so well that they went down the Olicity path. And this show became Oliver and Felicity very centric, and that was when it started to slope downwards. Think back to season 2. Season 2 was the high point of Arrow. I think we can all agree on that. Things started to trend downward a bit, and part of what the problem is now is the soap operation nature of things. And I know it's a CW show, but they need to go back to what made Arrow great, which was some awesome fight scenes, Oliver working to become a better man, not necessarily in a romantic sense, but as in to better himself after his island experience and wanting to save his city, evolving from a murderer into a hero and things like that. I'm tired of, oh my God, Oliver and Felicity are going to do this now. They drove it into the ground. Olicity has damaged Arrow, I would argue, and you might be able to argue that's part of the reason they killed off Laurel Lance. It was proven in season 1 that fans were not buying the Oliver and Laurel thing. They weren't buying it.
One of the things I actually liked about this episode is that there wasn't a Felicity until the end. Like I didn't miss her at all. I love the fact that I guess she set up the system to where they can press a couple of hotkeys and hack into the prison. I think that's great that she did that for them. She probably has like a little key, press these things.
So there's
but I did not miss her.
Sorry,
I didn't miss her.
Quick side note: there's supposedly a cutscene they didn't show that was Felicity and Curtis talking about stuff that might have explained some of how they were able to hack some of that. It might have been Curtis or Felicity that was setting something up, but there was about a 5-minute scene that was cut and not shown in the episode.
I think Felicity as a character overall is a good character, and I've been a Felicity fan for a very long time. The way that she left Oliver and the way that that whole relationship ended was uncharacteristic of Felicity. And again, I'll point to the writers not dealing with the situation that well. Maybe not the writers. I'll just say the creative team in general, because I don't know who's exactly making the decision. So the creative team on Arrow has been suffering. It's been suffering since they split off to the Flash. It's definitely been suffering this year through the arc, through many's eyes. I haven't really minded the Felicity, but she hasn't been the Felicity of old, the quirky Felicity, the intelligent Felicity, the Felicity that can do anything with technology. That's the Felicity, the quirky underdog, really, because she's not trained in it. So that's the one I like. Now she's the CEO of Palmer Tech, and that's what she needs to go be. And like with Laurel Lance, I wouldn't mind if she took off the costume of Black Canary and became the DA, if Quentin Lance would have been the one that died, because then she would have been the insight into the law enforcement of Star City. And I think that would have worked out well as well, taking her out of the Arrow Cave into the courtroom exclusively. But I think they're doing it with Felicity. I'm not sure that's going to work, but we'll see. And we spent a lot of time on this right now, but I think it deserved it. there's a lot of people coming at it from a lot of different perspectives. You just have to understand that this is a divisive decision they consciously made. They're not going to change. No matter what you rant about, they're not going to change it.
No.
It's like Walking Dead. They're not going to bring back any character. Like, Steven, I'm sorry, Lori Grimes, she's dead. She's not coming back. It's that sort of thing. And
say what you want. At least the Arrow team knows how to kill off a character, unlike the Walking Dead team.
Well, or bring them back.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, in The Walking Dead, they've
just
done that.
warm up this season.
Yeah.
Right.
That's our warm up death.
Right. So if this is not your thing, then this is not your thing. But if you're watching it, if you like Chris pointed out, if you like the base of the show, of Oliver becoming a better man, the great fights, the saving the city sort of thing, that's where they need to go now. Otherwise, they're going to completely lose whatever audience they have left.
They need to get back to their formula, and they have a lot of potential to do that going forward, because Diggle's a man on a mission now, because it's his brother that set all of this in motion, and he didn't believe Oliver when it came down to that. Oliver's going to be a man on a mission too, because one of his best friends is now gone, and his life is still falling apart all around him. All the pieces are there for them to make this recover. It's all there. This death is traumatic to everyone on the show. That's part of the reason why, as much as I wasn't thinking about it, I kind of see where they went with it, because by killing this one person who is a member of Team Arrow, who is on the inside, it affects every single person there. If you kill Quentin, everyone was expecting it. Yes, it has an impact, but not the same as killing someone on the team. That's why, as much as it surprised me, I'm not anti it, if that makes sense, because I don't know who you would kill other than her or one of the other core members that would have that same impact. I don't know.
Diggle.
That would be super ballsy if they'd killed Diggle.
Diggle or
that would have hurt. That would have hurt deep. That would have hurt deep.
Quentin Lance would have hurt deep too, because that would have affected everybody just as much.
I do, but at the same time, here's why they didn't do it. Because how many weeks do we all come on here and be, oh, it's going to be Quentin. It's going to be Quentin.
Listen, I think there would have been a response no matter who they killed. They would have upset somebody. Personally, I went through a checklist of why I wouldn't mind just about anybody on the team biting it. I thought, Speedy, okay, well, that gives you some really interesting things with Merlin. That gives really interesting character development with Ollie. Felicity dying, I think that you get a more mature, angry kind of solo Ollie again, more like season 1 and season 2, and that gets back to our roots. Captain Lance, I just thought, you know what, that sets up more drama with the family, with Mama Smoke, with this friendship that has evolved between him and Ollie. I'm like, okay, you can kill off Captain Lance. Diggle, I was secretly hoping that they would kill Diggle off, because he has been holding Ollie back. Now, they found a different way to deal with that in this episode, but he's always been, oh, you got to be safe, you got to be this, you got to be blah, blah, blah. He's like that fatherly voice of reason. He went from being a brother to always telling Ollie he couldn't do things. And this episode was a perfect example of that, where it's like, no, you can't torture him. No, you can't follow your instincts. No, you're not the leader. I'm going to put, I know where the Kevlar isn't. And it was a different way of dealing with that. Yeah.
bring back
the sleeves.
So I could have had any of them go away and go, all right, this will add to it. I think it's a shame that we lost Laurel. I think there was a lot of potential personally. Yeah, a couple of the other characters I would have been okay with saying goodbye to, but kind of is where it is. Let's see where they go from here.
Yeah, not going to change it. We'll see. All right.
So I got a question real quick before we move off that.
Yeah.
If Diggle and Lila have another daughter, they can name her Laurel now, because they named their kids after dead Lances.
Yeah, but then they come back. See, that's the thing. You have a kid, you name him after the dead Lance, and then the dead Lance comes back.
It's The Walking Dead. Unless someone's dead for greater than a year, I don't believe it.
Chris, too soon, man. Too soon.
Arrow.
Well, one thing we haven't addressed on this is that the circumstances of her death. There's a lot of speculation out there that Oliver euthanized her.
I think Guggenheim came out and said that was not the case in an interview today that I had read, or it might have been late last night. It goes, that is not even what we were trying to imply. That was not what happened. Oliver did not, because she was expected to recover.
Yeah, right.
He said, and then I think it was Wendy Miracle. Someone asked her, are we going to know what Laurel said to Oliver? She said, wait for season 5.
Right. I did see that. So,
yeah.
Okay. Let's just put that to bed. No Oliver euthanizing
No.
Laurel. Okay, let's go back to Oliver. Neil, you have some opinions on Oliver here.
Yeah, so I'm a fan of season 2, but I'm also a very strong advocate for season 1. Season 1 is where it all came from, where he was the badass vigilante who was putting people down, doing parkour, taking out the villain of the week. And the question is, are we going to get him back? Now, it looks like there's a lot of anger on the team, but from the trailer, it seems like he's going to temper that. So that's a question. My bigger question, and I think it's a gaping plot hole in this episode, is if he was on the island with the idol, and he knows that to power this piece of magical badassery, you need to make human sacrifices. Why, in the ever-looking frack, did you reassemble it and keep it in the world's least secure place, even with the new security upgrades?
I know, because plot.
See,
I know.
This
That's
is
what I
the sort of
thought
thing-
too.
This is the sort of thing that's gotten me a little bit off of the Flash and the Supergirl show and Arrow. It's the plot holes like this. Like, really? Well, how about a little OPSEC or Operation Security for those of you unfamiliar with the term? So, yeah, you got that sort of stuff going on. I agree. He's smart to disassociate the two, but at the same time, it's like, okay, why didn't you destroy part of it? Why do you keep it around even? They destroyed the other one. Anyway.
It's powered by human sacrifice, people. Like, it's not a good piece of tech.
Or give it to Constantine.
He's in hell right now.
Well,
He is literally going
FedEx.
through hell.
Or at least just not put it back together.
I think
At
you got to
least we
go
could have had like
DHL.
half a season of Malcolm and Damien Dark with Crazy Glue fighting over which piece went where. I mean, that would have been entertaining.
Well, how's Malcolm going to do it? He's only got one hand.
You
Let me
try
hold
to
this with
Arthur
my
up.
tongue.
All right.
Oh, no, I glued my tongue to the statue. Ah!
I triple dog dare you.
Okay, I want to see this. They need to make a buddy movie of Malcolm Merlin.
it's the next spinoff from the team that brought you Arrow and Flash and Supergirl.
They're coming out with new shows left and right. Marvel just announced a new show Under the Radar yesterday. I was like,
I saw that.
What?
I'm
Yeah.
intrigued, but I know it's probably not towards my demographic, so I probably shouldn't be too intrigued.
No, you're not a teenage girl between the ages of 12 and 14.
Not
That's
anymore. I'm not SP.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
The pills helped.
They did. Made my beard grow in nice and thick.
All right. So let's go back to Laura a little bit. There's a little bit of an internet rumor, I guess, that they are bringing her back to the Justice League. Is that correct?
Yeah, that one's hit the Twitter sphere, but I haven't found anything like even remotely validated. But there's a wild internet rumor out there that with the success of Wonder Woman in Batman v Superman, that they want to add another strong female character into the Justice League movie, and they're making a Black Canary, and we all know that they will sacrifice this show and the CW verse on the altar of the big screen every time they want the character.
Yeah, the only character that's in both right now is Flash. And we don't know which version of Flash that they're going to be at in either universe at that point in time. Hopefully they're still at Barry Allen in the Flash TV show.
There's a pretty wicked rumor about that one too. I know we're not a Flash show, but real quick, the rumor is that when they do the Flash movie, Barry will conveniently be killed in the Flash TV show, and Wally becomes the Flash, much like in the comics.
Yeah, I could see that. Definitely could see that. Okay, so we talked about her being in Earth 2 and then coming back in flashbacks and stuff like that. But also, let's go back to what she said right before she died. And I love you, but I'm glad you found Felicity. Go be with Felicity. What else did she say? We talked about it. We're going to find out in season 5 because, of course, there's CW, or I don't know who it was, but they completely renewed all the TV shows that they have. CW down their entire slate. It was CW, excuse me. I was thinking Supergirl was included that, but it was not. It was just the entire slate of CW shows got renewed. Okay, Andy, I kind of was, once you go bad, you don't go good again or something like that. So
Diggle was awful quick to be like, "Oh, Andy's a good guy now." I'm like, "You kept him locked in a basement, wouldn't believe in any good in him for how long?" And now you're like, "No, he's a good guy. He wouldn't screw with us." And I was sitting there going, "Because plot,
It's those listening devices. I mean, I go through my house looking for listening devices all the time.
I have to keep tearing out the webcam Steven puts in my house."
That's nasty. Michelle,
they're
did you
in my
see that one
dining room.
coming?
He wants to see what I eat.
Court. Yeah. The moment that he came off that truck and it was like, you guys made that look easy. I'm just like, oh God, no. And it was poor Diggle. But
then he got shot with an arrow. Did that somehow sate or at least alleviate that risk for you, or were you like, nope, he took it because he knew it?
he knew it. It was a really good, like he knew what he was doing.
To quote a
He
great
knew.
movie, "'Tis just a flesh wound." He was fine.
Oh, but
Yeah.
his brother was massaging it and making sure the stitches were in and everything, and just doing his little what? Yeah, that's right.
Being old man Diggle.
Okay, Thea.
See, that's why I thought Diggle was going to get it, because one, his brother was the traitor, and his security system failed
Again.
So I kind of thought Diggle would have gotten it to like complete
They
that
need to
arc.
use that to their advantage. Okay, we know they're going to come in, so let's do let's entrap them. It's a trap. And yes, that's a homage to Admiral Akbar.
Yes.
Who,
So what you're
passed
saying
away.
is the next time there's something that everybody wants in the bunker or the arrow cave, they're just going to put outward facing claymores around every entrance and see what happens.
That's true.
Why didn't they just put it in the backup cave that nobody knows about but like 3 people?
But Andy's been tracking John's movement all the time, of course.
Yeah, but when's the last time John went to the backup cave?
Well, every guy needs some alone time every once in a while. I'm sure he's been there.
Fair enough.
He keeps the big screen TV in his Maxim
Statement
magazine
retracted.
collection.
Max. Okay, that's where he goes to run because he needs to be better in shape, right?
All right.
Okay.
Hey, how about Thea?
How about Thea? Great quote here. I'm going to go hit the streets. Thea, no one is going to give up Merlin. Well, then I'm going to hit people on the streets. I'm like, yeah, that's my girl.
Yeah. And now we know why she carries around a sword. Again, for a hero that is supposed to be not killing people, a sword is not your ideal weapon to have as part of your superhero arsenal. But when you're fighting ninjas, you probably need a sword. So there we go. It was very useful until the point she lost it.
Right. So what happened with her bloodlust? Because I thought like it was temporarily gone from her. Like when Damien put his hand on her chest in the hallway, like she was satiated for a little bit, but
I thought she was cured by brain fart, Nissa in the elixir, the magic elixir.
Oh, that's right.
there you go.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
It was
The
she
mana.
needed a mana potion. She was good after that.
Yeah.
And I would like to
the
see
whole
Nissa
katana
back.
thing. Yeah, that's right.
How can you forget Nissa, guys? Come on.
I
She's one
can't
of
forget
our favorites.
Nissa and Katana.
This,
I keep on
I love
thinking
Nissa.
about their little fight in the woods around the little hutch guarding something. I don't know. It's a good thought.
Realistically, nothing else happened that episode. It was just fight.
Right. No. Nissa and Katana fight. That's it.
Yes.
And then Oliver Queen's name is mentioned and everything stops. Ooh, Ollie. We need to help Ollie. Okay. So Malcolm and Dark, interesting dynamic. Why is Malcolm still kowtowing to him in prison? I mean, he could have finished him off right there.
I'm hoping this connects to why he took Vandal Savage's ashes, because that hasn't come back either. So I'm wondering if somehow this is connected. I hope so.
Malcolm is just guano crazy. And he never thinks right. And we can't lose John Barrowman from the show, because then crazy crap just can't happen, right? So, but still, you got to double guess the guy. It's like, dude, you had a chance right there. It's over. I don't know. Maybe Reve would have gotten mad. I don't know.
Well, it comes down to Malcolm saying, all right. And I bet Reve was still saying, well, we're going to kill everybody. And he's like, well, how can we save my daughter? Just like, all right. I kind of buy it, but oh, well, I like Crazy Malcolm. So let's go with Crazy Malcolm.
I like John Barrowman. That basically is Crazy Malcolm.
And then there's Crazy Captain Lance, who hits his, okay. I'm kind of confused. He's Captain Lance, right? And he's going after Lieutenant Pike. So technically, I know he's suspended, but technically he outranks Lieutenant Pike, right?
Correct.
So he's not slugging a superior officer. He's slugging a junior officer.
I guess, yeah.
I still don't think you're allowed to do that on the police force.
Oh, yeah. You can rough up your troops anytime. Yeah. So what do you mean you didn't stop that speeder?
Especially when you're suspended. And
you're going to get it now.
Collaborating with a criminal. And
that just means you have to wear suspenders.
Oh, fair enough.
It's fine. Yeah, right. But yeah, so his reaction was interesting in the hallway. How do you play that, right? I've never had to deal with the death of a kid, and I hope I never do. But how do you play that? And this is like the second time he's got to do, actually a third time he's got to do this, right? So how do you do that?
And supposedly Paul Blackthorne is super method, so I don't know how he put himself in that mindset to do it.
And he just collapses on the floor, and he doesn't know what to think. He doesn't go all the way down. He tries to prop himself up, but he just can't do it. And they're just all in shock. And this is another death of his kid. And then let's not forget, the man did have a heart condition, especially after the 2 seasons ago. So, I mean, anything could have happened. And I heard an interesting theory that he could have died on the drive over as well. So, and Laurel could have lived. So it was still up in the air up till that last point. All right.
Yeah, he made me cry. Like it didn't hit me till like he came and collapsed. That's when I
thought
cried.
he was going to kick it at that point too. I was like, uh-oh, it's a twofer.
So I didn't watch it real time. It was a very emotional time there when you're seeing it, because I was already spoiled. I knew what was happening. I'm asking you three. It was very emotional, right? So the girl says yes, and the boys say no. Okay, I get it.
Right. I will confess. It's like she's dead and everything and everyone, but you know, it's a testament to Paul Blackthorne's acting, to where it really didn't hit me on any sort of emotional level until he's standing there and his reaction and how he collapsed and everything. That is the moment when I cried, not when she got stabbed, not when she was all like, I love you, go Felicity, blah, blah, blah. It was that moment when he collapses in the hallway.
I felt bad for him at that point in time, but I'd already kind of accepted it and moved on. But again, remember, Laurel's not one of my favorite characters. It's probably easier for me than others.
No, and at that point, it's the device that they used to kill her that, you know, hey, she pulled through. Hey, she's doing fine. Hey, she's talking to Oliver. Oliver walks out of the room. She's dead. Like, okay, did they Roy her? Is it another fake out? And I know the producers have said no, but it's really hard. I didn't accept it. I didn't accept it at face value. And I think maybe that's my problem, that I know they've been saying, you know, this is what happened. But if something happens off screen, we don't know what actually happened. And they've royed people before.
Yeah, they have.
Well, they've royed Roy before.
That's right.
Hey-o.
Whoa. And
didn't say they've Rogered Roy before.
Well, I mean, they killed people off screen. They've torched entire buildings off screen. You know, they've done a lot of things off screen thanks to the comics. And I guess that's part of the modern media. You have comics, you have web series and whatever. So things can happen off show. And in this case, you have a whole DC TV universe that stuff could happen in. And they're all loosely connected, even though I have a heartburn about how they connected Supergirl. All right. Any last thoughts, Chris?
Didn't call it. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, we didn't.
Nope.
I just want to say the episodes themselves have been great, but it's going to take me a while to reconcile the story plot, but we'll see. I'll hang in there.
You got 3 weeks to do it, I guess.
Well, I'll liken it to season 1 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. You know, with the whole Civil War thing and the existence of Hydra, that changed the dynamic of everything. And I was mad because I didn't know any better, but I got over it, and it's my favorite show now. So I'll stick with this for now. We'll see. Neil?
Yeah, I think we all got it wrong, but the promo for the next episode looked great. The next episode that we have coming up is, as we said, in 3 weeks, episode 19, titled Canary Cry. There's no official synopsis published, and even IMDb doesn't have any credits for it yet. So they're keeping a lot of this under the hood. The air date is going to be Wednesday, April 27th, 2016, on the CW network and the CTV network up here north of the 49th parallel.
Right. It's going to be fun. So we'll go over some Easter eggs as we always do. And yes, I did catch when you guys said, let's just not call this DC Easter eggs anymore. Let's just call it pop culture Easter eggs last podcast. So I'm fine with that. So let's go over them. We do every week. Comicbook.com publishes a great list, and we got some here. So Neil, why don't you start us off?
Sure. The first was Ruve Dark's campaign slogan, "Make this city great again." Everybody is saying that probably takes some inspiration by what's going on in the US of A with a certain Republican candidate right now, making
Great orange
America
one?
great again. Yes.
The orange one.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
Chris, what do you got
that's
next?
Next up is Iron Heights Prison. When you go to prison in the Flaro universe, you're going to Iron Heights like everyone else has. So more reference again, because if you remember, Barry's dad was there. Ollie's mom was there. Malcolm was there, I think, at one point. I don't remember. Everyone's been in that damn prison, basically.
And the dangerous ones have been all handcuffed to the same bar there, too.
Yes.
Or in the basement in a little room with licorice.
I like licorice.
I like the red licorice. So, Neil, what do we got next?
Third up was, and we saw him in the last episode from season 1, Murmur, with his mouth sewn shut. He is canon in the DC universe, and now he's out on the loose and probably going to stir things up for Team Arrow in the next season.
You think he'll clip his mouth open, maybe? I mean, I might.
It's your thing, man. It's like the Riddler's finally deciding, I'm not going to wear bowlers and wear a green jumpsuit, or the Joker going, nah, you know what, I'm kind of done with this white face paint thing. Yeah,
Doc Venture without the blue speed suit, that's just not happening for me. Okay, I understand. Yeah, right. Okay, Chris, what do we got again?
Hero without a mask, basically what Laurel wants to become by taking off the mask to become the district attorney, and basically what Dark Knight was all about in Christopher Nolan's world, where you had a lawyer that could be the hero this city needs because Batman couldn't step out into the light. So kind of a riff back onto both of those.
And finally, the last one that we get, episode after episode, News 52 Mike Flagg. 52 is a big number in the DC universe. So look for it showing up just about everywhere.
So now that the new 52 is over, will they stop harping on 52 for everything?
I don't think so. I think 52's been a stalwart of the universe for a long time.
Mostly with the new 52.
Well, no, before that they had the 1 year series of weekly books called 52 as well. Yeah. So
there you go. Okay, on to some news for the week. First of all, we got our Mr. Terrific promoted to series regular. You kill off one character, you gotta, promote another. You gotta hold the fill, and they put them on there. So we're gonna see more Curtis on the show, and we'll see what that takes, because I kind of disagree with you guys. You guys were saying that Overwatch 2.0 is here. Well, that might be true, but he said my place is with you, talking to his husband, not down in the cave.
Right now it is. Wait another episode or two because plot.
Sure.
No, there's going to be some sort of event, and he's going to be like, I need to reevaluate. There are things bigger than us, and I need it. There's a calling, and
Yeah, plot.
that thing's good.
Or lack thereof. All right.
Same difference, really.
Well, I kind of wish they would take this time to actually maybe beef up Thea or something like that. Like they didn't need to add somebody new. They could have just sort of enriched the ones that they already have. But
They need their big brain.
I like
That's what he's
Curtis.
going to be
Okay.
is the big brain. Even if it's not, he's always in the cave. He'll be consulting, much like Tony Stark was originally.
We talked about Katie Cassidy guest starring on Flash already. And then we talked about Mark Guggenheim and Wendy Miracle explaining the death. But what we haven't talked about is actually Katie Cassidy's quote. And Michelle, you want to go ahead and read this quote from Katie for us, please? Okay.
Sure. Since season 2 up until now, Laurel has had a truly amazing journey. The writers have written so well for me, and I've had such an incredible arc. It made sense to me creatively. Laura's story has come to an end in the Arrowverse. I love everyone on set and our crew. Being there for 4.5 years, they've become family. So it's hard to not go into work every day and get to work with such amazing people. That part is certainly sad, but I was okay with it. We all came to an understanding that this was what was going to happen, and it made sense to me. I think the shock value was good. It's such a jolt and a turn in the story that it gives the writers so much more to do and places to go with it. Otherwise, I feel like shows can get stale.
So it took it very well. And also, I was watching her, and I don't know why, but she kept on popping up on my Facebook feed. And 2 days before, she's like, okay, 2 days till the episode. So she was primed for it, and she was going into it not handcuffed to the train as it's going over the cliff or anything like that. So I think she handled it pretty well. We talked about the Forbes article. We threw it in the chat before. If you haven't read that, you probably should. Even, no matter which side you're on, it will give you insight into kind of a well drawn out contrary view of questioning the decision to kill Laurel and blaming Olicity, as a lot of articles have been on killing the show Arrow. We're still going to watch it. We're still going to podcast, by the way. We're still here. And then Hollywood Reporter had an article on who is the next Black Canary. Neil, what is this about?
So I tried to take a look at some of the bigger film and TV media sites, aside from just the geek culture and the comic culture sites. And I found this interesting article from the Hollywood Reporter. Spoiler alert, they think Felicity is going to put the suit on. And I have to say, I just don't see it. That's not her strength. It's not what she would do. Yes, she did a bit of training, but no, that's not what she does. And as some people have said, well, what if she gets a bigger, badder chip in her back and turns her to cyborg kung fu Felicity? But no, I just don't get it.
That sounds like bad fanfic to me.
For the record, I have been screaming for a couple of years that Felicity needs to train more. So if this happens, hey, Laurel went to a boxing class for a week and became a superhero. Felicity's been around superheroes for several years. I think this can happen. I think we're all good.
Well, remember that she trained with Nisa as well, not just the boxing club.
All right, well, bring Nissa back in and get her on Felicity. I think we're all good. Yeah, or Katana, or both of them. I think we're good.
Well,
right? Okay,
guys.
So
just bring Nissa back. Make Nissa the Black
Sarah's
Canary.
going to go back to being the
That would be
Black
great.
Canary.
maybe I like her in white.
I do too.
But yeah, I like the boob window back too. Can we get that? I mean, let's just call it for what it is, right? Okay. And then the AV Club had an article, what just happened?
Yeah, and the AV Club's article was good. They actually approached it from more of a filmmaking and a plot progression. And they did a lot of talking and analysis on the concept of Chekhov's gun. If you show something in the first act, you have to maintain integrity with your audience. You need to bring it back in the third act. And they said they did that. They had to kill somebody off. They've They showed the death scene at the beginning of the season. They had to complete that arc. The AV Club also goes into kind of a dissection of different fan camps within the Arrow community and their perspectives on it. More of somebody analyzing all of us and our perspective, which was a really cool article. So definitely check that out.
So Mad Hatter in the chat just brought up how to bring Felicity to a superhero. Water slapping training. Come on, guys. Just give her a bowl of water. We'll be fine. All right. So there's a bunch of Arrow casting interviews that have occurred. We've got a few to talk about. Mark Guggenheim talks about several different things. I think we're running a little bit long today. So, Neil, do you mind just putting those in the show notes and then we'll move on?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about comics and toy news. So go.
Great. So this week we also had Green Arrow issue 51 released on Wednesday. If you have been following the Wolven disease, basically turning everybody into werewolves in Seattle, Green Arrow is in Africa looking for a miracle cure, but so is Deathstroke. And this is the epic showdown in Africa. Things may not turn out so well for Green Arrow. That's all I'm going to say. Definitely check it out. And in the show notes as well, there's a lot of questions about what does Rebirth mean. A really good article on IO9 summing up Rebirth. If you're at all curious about what's coming down the pipe, where DC is heading with the new generation of DC Comics that launches basically starting in the summer and going through into the early fall, check it out. It's in the show notes.
Sounds good. Hey, guys, we got a voicemail.
Woo woo!
Michelle, can you guess who it's from?
No.
We're talking about our pal Black Adam, so here we go.
Well, I can tell Chris is going to be happy. Sorry, this is Adam calling in with feedback on this week's Arrow, and, well, I'll come back to the ending, but I like that after the last, half season or so, Arrow is back to being an action-adventure show with romance as a subplot, rather than a romance show with action-adventure as a subplot. Even if that meant that Felicity was barely in the episode. The various fight scenes with Thea and Malcolm were pretty good. And after all that time of, giving hints and kind of leading people in certain directions, when they got to this episode, it feels like they just decided, who cares? Let's make it completely obvious the entire episode who we're about to kill off. I was really hoping there would be like a last second twist, and I mean, I don't want to lose Quentin, but if on his way to the hospital he got killed by Dark and Laurel survived and was just injured and not really doing much for the rest of the season, that would have been playing into more of the foreshadowing from earlier in the season, but still not making the entire episode pretty much formulaic. Not really sure what else to talk about, so can't wait to hear what you guys think. Talk to you later. Bye.
See, I don't think it was telegraphed the entire episode. I just me. I mean, it could have been a few people up until the last moment, but that was just me.
They did a good job by is it going to be Diggle? Is it going to be her? I think they did a good job with that.
I thought it could have been Thea too, So,
well, thank you very much, Adam, for the voicemail. Do you guys have anything more to say about the voicemail in general?
No, I'm
Chris?
good.
Okay. All right. So, Chris, you have a few other podcasts on our network, right?
No, I only do this.
Okay. Well, we are part of a larger network. And Chris, why don't you tell the listener at home what other podcasts they might be interested in?
So SP is right. We are part of the Gonna Geek Network. There's tons of awesome geeky podcasts there. 18 shows are on the network right now. So there's always something there that can get your geek interest going. And this week we want to talk to you guys about Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. episode 114 entitled Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s Watchdogs. This week, the Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents Haley and Lauren are joined by Gonna Geek Network owner, Mr. President Stephen Johndrew, to discuss the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episode from Season 3, Watch Dogs. Agents Haley and Lauren act out another fan-written script with Deadpool and Agent Carter. Agent Haley promotes her AggieCon panel appearances for the upcoming weekend. And all three hosts run down the weekly Marvel news, respond to listener feedback, interact live on the Blab streaming chat with comments. So that is the show we want to send you guys to go and listen to this week is Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. over at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
That's right. So, as always, thank you very much to the listeners and viewers and everybody that downloads our podcasts. If you're listening live on Spreaker or later, or the replay on YouTube, thank you very much. And thank you very much to our video editor, Mr. Chris.
I'd also love to thank everybody that has joined us live this evening in the Blab chat. If you'd like to join the craziness, then you can join live on Thursdays, typically at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, on blab.im or geeks.live. And if you're on Blab, search for Starling, Tribune, or Gonna Geek. And don't forget that after the show, we always open up the fourth seat on the Blab interface for our live listeners to hang out and share their thoughts. You can watch the next live show on the Gonna Geek Network over at geeks.live. The next live show on the networks is All Things Good and Nerdy, Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific.
And don't forget to please leave us a review and rate us and subscribe to us on iTunes. We really appreciate that, a 5-star review. And then like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and follow us on YouTube. That's the youtube.com/GoodAGeek channel. And you can always badger us on Twitter at any of our accounts or the Starling Tribune account.
And don't forget, you can find all of our contact information over on the Gonna Geek Network, over at GonnaGeekNetwork.com. While you're there, check out one of the other awesome podcasts or head on over to the forums and interact with some of the fans that are there. If you want to share your thoughts with us, head on over to our Facebook page, send in a tweet, or best of all, give us a call on our voicemail at 612-888-CAVE. That's 612-888-2283.
And just before we sign off for the evening, a very special thanks to our guest, Michelle Ely, live tonight, joining us to talk about this momentous event on the Starling Tribune. Michelle, it has been awesome to have you join us.
It's been amazing. Thank you, gentlemen, for making room for me.
So everyone, Chris, SP, Michelle, that about wraps it up for another week. Any last words before we sign off and open up the Blab to our live listeners? At Michelle Ely.
Oh, Merlin, what are you up to?
At the Chris Farrell.
Hashtag bring back sleeves.
At Stargate Pioneer.
Canary.
And I am at Neil Isn't Witty, signing off with hashtag Stabby McStabs-a-lot. Oracle, I think we're done.
This was the Starling Tribune. You can leave us feedback at GonnaGeek.com or check out our archive at StarlingTribune.com. Visit GonnaGeek.com for more podcasts. Music by Kevin MacLeod can be found at Incompetech.com. This podcast is not produced or maintained by the CW, Warner Brothers Television, CTV, or DC Comics. All characters, stories, and situations are the property of Time Warner. No infringement is intended. We will see you for the next episode of CW's Arrow.
Mr. Neil, thank you very much. I think you got a split now, don't you?
I have to get in the car and go down to Emerald City Comic Con. So I got about a 2.5, 3 hour drive in front of me. So guys,
all right.
Have fun. Everybody in Blab. It's been fun having you along for this momentous episode. Have fun chatting, guys.
Drive
See you
safe.
later.
So we have a few minutes before Chris has to depart and start his Blab. But if anybody wants to drop in, now would be the time. Otherwise, we're going to close her down. Just because Chris has to start another Blab on this same account. And I don't know if we can have 2 Blabs going at the same time on the same account.
I don't know.
I don't know
Probably
either.
not.
Yeah, probably not.
Blab would probably crap itself.
It does so anyway.
Well, on a good
doesn't need
day.
an excuse. So Stephen Wander in the chat. Good show for you. Good to hear from you again, Michelle. So you got a shout out.
Oh, thank
I'm
you,
the
Mr.
president. Yeah.
President.
Thank you. Bird bomb diving. All right, guys. If anybody wants to come in, just let us know and we'll wait. Otherwise, we're probably going to shut this one down.
But
Yeah,
if you want to hear Star Wars, go
Okay.
over to the Nerd Alert News Blab that starts in like 10 minutes ish. But
Can
of
I
course,
come?
you can go.
Yay!
Didn't like that.
Because it's Star Wars.
Oh, Neil coming back, I guess.
No, I think I tried to embed something that thought Neil was coming back. I don't know.
That was weird.
It's a Blab hiccup.
Oh, I can stop
Yes.
recording.
Yep, you're
right?
good.
I'm going to do that real quick and get my track uploading.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah, thank you so
very
much, Michelle.
Thank you.
Neil
This is fun.
rearranged his schedule to be here for this, but it was great having you on. So thank you very much. And
Thank you.
I'm sure we can find a home for you somewhere on the network. In the meantime, are you back writing articles?
I am writing again. I need to share stuff with Mr. President and see if it's what he wants. So
I think anything would be good.
yeah.
Okay. Well, nobody's coming in, so we're just going to call it a night. And thank you, everybody, for showing up. We will see you next week, and we will be at our normal time next week. And we'll probably be talking about some panels that we have some audio from.
Tease.
All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.